The 40th Hungarian Grand Prix produced another classic race. Races like 2019 or 1998 where a driver on a two-stop is trying to get back at a driver who's on a one-stop. However, unlike those two previous occasions, this is going on between teammates. Let's talk about it. Because I think the eyes were very much on McLaren this weekend, especially after they didn't get pole position and Charles Leclerc did. But it was just, well, unsurprising, I think, to say the least, that McLaren managed to get the pace that they did. Ferrari have had a step backwards in the past 12 months, but McLaren have taken another step forward. They did dominate here last year. I expected they were going to be up at the front again this year. And it was in part because Lando Norris was able to make that one-stop work, and in part because Piastri was able to find some brilliant pace in that final stint. The track came back to the McLarens as it warmed up, as any of the ideas of dampness started to, well, quite literally dry away. And in the end, it became the fact that, well, they were both on the same compound of tyre, and whilst Piastri was on much newer tyres, they were in the same car, more or less. And this track is Monaco without the barriers, so Lando was able to hold off for the win. I think both drivers only really made one big mistake over the course of the race. Both of them into turn one. Piastri's was that lock-up, the one that George Russell jokingly said, "Oh, you could have T-boned him, that would have been great." And Lando's was the very first turn of the race. He decided that he was going to try and go on the inside of Piastri, who was deciding that he was going to try and go on the outside of Leclerc. It was never going to work out, and in the end it cost Lando 2 places, as Russell and Alonso got past him. From there, it was pretty much one stop or bust. He had to do the one stop, and he managed to make it work. It's perhaps not too surprising, but at the end of the day, whilst he blamed the traffic, realistically the tyre deck was going to be the thing that got back at him. It wasn't going to be that it was the traffic that cost him. It was having to drive around those tyres and being on the suboptimal strategy. And I get that if Piastri had passed Lando, we would have had another conversation of, oh, is Lando washed? But 2019 is the Grand Prix that comes to mind when I think of these kinds of battles, because, well, I wasn't alive in 98. Only just, but I wasn't. So 2019, Lewis Hamilton is in Piastri's position, Max Verstappen is in Lando's. Mercedes was the best car. The Red Bull had some good weekends, and the Hungarian was one of the better weekends it would have in that era. But regardless, it was a car difference that helped out in the end, and a tyre advantage for the better car that meant that Lewis was able to pass Max easily. In the end, Max pits and he gets the fastest lap. And if we had fastest lap points still, maybe you would have seen Piastri catch past Lando pit and get the fastest lap point. I don't know though. I'm going to talk about the rest of the top 10 in one go. George Russell was third and put himself halfway between the McLarens and the fourth place car of Charles Leclerc, who was just struggling. He ranted for so long that the auto generator ran out of screen to put his radio message on. And yeah, it just seems like Ferrari is getting better, but it also doesn't fully understand what's causing this or that or the other. I mean, you could look at Lewis Hamilton's struggles, getting knocked out in Q2 and finishing 12th as part of that as well. I don't think it is that Lewis should, be replaced, as he even suggested after qualifying. I think there are some introspective things that Ferrari have to do to be able to get to the next stage, and renewing Vasseurs' contract means that they have confidence that he will be able to take the time to be able to do that. Alonso's 5th was fantastic, a double points for Aston Martin with Lance Stroll in 7th as well. It just is really, really good for that team, especially after the struggles they had in Spa. Between them in 6th place, well, it's a driver that's managed by Fernando Alonso's firm, Gabriel Bortoleto. he has really come into his own in recent races, and I think has established himself as the most complete out of the full season rookies this year. Like, the run he's had of points finishes where he's been outperforming Nico Hulkenberg, who is often a litmus test for if someone's a good driver. It's really convincing, and I know Hulk had his struggles today. He had his penalty, his early pit stop, he finished 13th, but Bortoleto was almightily impressive. Rounding out the top 10, we have Liam Lawson as the lead Red Bull stable driver. He was 3 seconds clear of Max Verstappen, who just struggled all weekend. And then the top 10 was rounded out by the first of the lapped cars, which was Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who he had his ups and downs over the course of the weekend. He just needs more time. And it looks like Mercedes are willing to give him that more time, which is good. It's what's needed. Bortoleto is coming into this a kind of Piastri type figure. By which I mean, you know how Piastri came into McLaren in his debut season, came in having won the support series back to back. Antonelli comes in a bit more of a George Russell. George needed those couple of seasons at Williams to properly develop himself. And yes, at the end of 2020, we saw him and we were like, he could go to Mercedes in 2021. But in the end, he's a bit of a slow burner. Took a while to build up. And with Mercedes and with Toto Wolff supporting him, he should be able to get there. But let's talk about the driver standings a little bit, and then we'll talk about the constructor standings and then wrap up this video and the first half properly of the F1 season. Piastri now leads Norris by 9 points. That is not really that comfortable. That is a win to a second, and with sprint weekends coming up, it's not even that, because you could do that over a sprint weekend and lose a championship lead. Verstappen is in third on 187 points, so nearly 100 points off of Piastri, and yeah, nearly 90 points behind Lando Norris. It is pretty much bolted on that McLaren will do the double this year. I don't expect it to be so convincing, but these are two drivers who are generally making the most out of their cars. They're making very few mistakes. And yeah, Verstappen's having to overdrive to try and catch up. I mean, we saw it at the Grand Prix. We saw it when he forced Lewis off, essentially. I think that got ruled NFA in the end, didn't it? Russell holds on to 4th. He's now 15 points behind Verstappen. That will be an interesting battle there for P3 in the championship. Meanwhile, 5 and 6 are pretty much set in their ways. Charles Leclerc from Lewis Hamilton. Kimi Antonelli got his first points since the Canada podium. We're now on 64 points. Whilst Alex Albon continues a run without points and gets himself into 8th, ahead of Hulkenberg in 9th. Then Ocon rounds out the top 10. The double point score for Aston Martin means that they are now level on points in the drivers' standings. Alonso and Stroll both on 26 points. There's Hadjar on 22, Gasly on 20, Lawson on 20, Sainz on 16. Bortoleto has nearly caught Sainz, and he has now passed Yuki Tsunoda. Bortoleto's on 14, Tsunoda's on 10. There's Behrman on 8 as the last of the point scorers this season, before the second Alpine seat. Just still no points this season for either Doohan or Colapinto. And yeah, McLaren's championship bid is a thing of when, not if. They're on 559 points. Ferrari, who are in second, are on 260. Mercedes, who are in third, on 236. And Red Bull in fourth are on 194. In fact, I think it's only when you combine those three teams that you'd end up with more points than McLaren. It's impressive. It's otherworldly. Like, even in prime Red Bull 2023, we didn't see that many 1-2s. We didn't see that level of domination. We saw that level of domination in terms of the wins. I mean, heck, we saw it at the Hungarian Grand Prix that year, even though George Russell got the pole position. But, yeah, we haven't really seen this kind of domination, this kind of dominant car, until this point of the era, and maybe it's good that we'll have a rules reset next year. I don't know. All I can say, folks, is that's that for this video. Thank you so much, as always, for watching and joining and showing your support. And congratulations to McLaren as well for, in addition to another 1-2 finish, getting their 200th Grand Prix win. Till next time, it's bye for now.